heard that there are mistress training classes on the market. Not only are there lecturers, but also successful predecessors of mistresses come to give guidance. After completing the course, the trainees will design various accidental encounters to entice the rich to fall. As a result, my husband's car was rear-ended 3 times within half a month. After the 4th time, my husband gave his contact information. One on the way back from the temple. I nestled in the back seat and rested. The car was suddenly rear-ended, and I was jerked forward by inertia and was firmly stopped by the seat belt. Before I had time to get out of the car to check, the window of the driver's seat was knocked. A charming woman said apologetically, "I'm so sorry. I was too careless when driving." River unbuckled his seat belt, took his mobile phone and got out of the car. After checking the rear and collision situation, he calmly made a call. The woman followed him, her hands intertwined, and her voice was soft and a bit innocent. "Let's settle it privately. But I don't have so much money on hand now. You leave a contact information, and I'll transfer it to you later." Her plump figure was wrapped in a tight short-sleeved shirt. As she spoke, her eyes were flowing, and she gently bit her lower lip. I leaned on the car window with a privacy film and deliberately imitated it once. River didn't say anything, just brought up the QR code and held it in front of the woman. A glimmer of joy flashed in her eyes, and she returned to normal in a moment. Watching the woman leave, River touched the flaw on the car body and returned to the driver's seat. I heard him sigh faintly. This is already the 4th rear-end collision accident that River has encountered this month. 1 car is hit, 1 is repaired, and it keeps repeating. Without exception, all the perpetrators are beautiful women. All kinds of beautiful women. Not the same. For the first time, he was in a hurry for a meeting. Seeing that the other party was sincere, he immediately agreed to settle it privately and left the special assistant's phone number. As a result, the woman used the excuse of repaying the money and sent messages asking about River's location and inquiring about River's preferences every 2 or 3 days, which made the special assistant extremely annoyed. For the 2nd time, the special assistant was rear-ended on the way to pick up River. The beautiful woman who caused the accident looked inside through the driver's seat. When she was sure that there was no second person in the car, she was obviously disappointed. After the traffic police judged, she threw down a stack of money and left gracefully, leaving the special assistant alone in a daze in the wind. For the 3rd time, when River was driving and felt the car vibrate, he took out his mobile phone without saying a word and called the traffic police. He didn't even roll down the car window. When he came back, he lay on the bed and asked me sullenly if he was having bad luck recently. River tapped the steering wheel with his fingers and concluded, "This temple is not effective." Thinking of his piety when he was drawing lots in the temple just now, I couldn't help laughing. "People are coming for you. The temple can't stop them." River turned his wrist and handed me his mobile phone. A message just passed through. "My name is Nathan. May I ask your name?" "Sir?" The profile picture is a cartoon character, making people think at first glance that the person on the other side is an extremely lovely girl. I replied by pressing the keyboard. "River." River glanced at me through the rearview mirror in the car and shook his head and chuckled. Baby has put in a lot of effort. I took the time to respond to his gaze, and then buried myself in the mobile phone to fight wits and courage. He took my mobile phone when he got out of the car and gave it to mine. A week ago, when I talked to my best friend about River being rear-ended a few times, she suddenly changed her expression. "Stella, is River being targeted?" I was completely confused and didn't understand. Luna lowered her head and flipped through her mobile phone, and showed me a video. The marketing account told a shocking and 3-view distorting phenomenon in an astonished tone. Commonly known as the Mistress Training Plan. 30,000 yuan per class. There are not only professional lecturers but also successful predecessors of mistresses come to give guidance. They package the circle of friends step by step, teach jet skills word by word, and even teach all the skills in that aspect. After completing the course, The trainees will design various accidental encounters to entice the rich to fall step by step. Rear ending is the most novel, intuitive, and effortless way. What shocked me even more was the comments in the comment area. I don't even have 30,000 yuan. Sure enough, I can't be a mistress. Maybe in the future, when rich people gather, they will find that their wives are all classmates in the same class. Can I pay first and make up later if I succeed? I heard that XXX's wife is like this. Teacher, is it okay for men? They diluted the fact of distorted 3 views with self-righteous humor. Although I don't doubt River's character. Luna had a solemn expression. 2 sentences pulled me out of the comment area. But I have a client. Her husband was hooked. He either transfers money to the mistress or buys luxury goods for the mistress every day. After thinking for a moment, I suddenly had an idea. Although River's family is not the richest, but the family background is indeed substantial. River, this young master, is good-looking. It's not unexpected to be targeted. When I told River about this outrageous incident, his 3rd car had just been sent for repair. Hearing this, he was also extremely distressed. This kind of thing is like an arrow shooting from the air. There is no way to avoid it. Your counterattack is like punching the air twice. It has no effect. Next time, give her your contact information. River frowned, but I became more and more excited. Give her my contact information. His frown relaxed, and he shook his head and sighed. What a sin. River and I have known each other since childhood and grew up together. He knows my style of doing things like the back of his hand. I have always been full of ideas, since I was a child. I have never been a quiet person. It's not an exaggeration to say that I am a little devil. This person falls into my hands. It's her bad luck. Nathan's carefully decorated circle of friends is unsurprisingly open to me. The frequency of posting is very high. The time can be traced back to 3 months ago. It seems that she has made full preparations for this accidental encounter. Exquisite tea snacks, decorated dishes, flower bouquets in bottles, and beautiful lines in the gym all reveal the owner's love for life all the time. Even the poses and angles of selfies are particular, bringing the advantages of figure and proportion into full play. But is the purpose a bit too strong? If her purpose is not to be a mistress, I will really admire her sincerely. I was looking through it with great interest when suddenly a new message floated from above. Nathan, Mr. River, are you free this afternoon? A direct refusal is not in line with common sense. Pushing River out might lead to getting beaten. I pursed my lips and typed to send. Unfortunately, I am on a business trip this afternoon. Talk to your wife instead. First, test her moral depth. This concerns the means I use on her. She didn't disappoint me either. Almost instantly, she replied to me. I'm afraid your wife doesn't understand the situation. I'll wait for you to come back from your business trip. I am sparing with words and reply with a single word. Good. The most anticipated part of fishing is casting the bait and waiting for the fish to bite. But if one is too greedy, the fishing rod will become an important tool to pull people into the water. She regards River as a fish, and I regard River as a fishing rod. 3. I asked Luna again and found that they are very meticulous and have packaged the training institution into a creative company. They claim externally that with excellent creativity, they can adjust the contradictions and differences between couples. They hide the dirty industry under romance and surprises. I followed the clues. The storefront is not large. From the outside, it can even be considered rather inconspicuous. Madame, what can I do for you? As soon as I stepped inside, a woman came up. Her smile was appropriate, but there was a hint of suspicion in her eyes when she looked at me. I pretended to be unable to speak easily, hesitated for 3 seconds, and said in a low voice, "My husband has been a bit cold to me recently." "I see. Please take a seat first. I'll arrange someone." In the framed picture on the wall is a list of planners. Nafam is in the first row. I stopped her about to leave. How are the levels of your planners divided? I want a high-quality one. They are all divided according to performance. Senior planners handle all the tasks they take on very satisfactorily. She was still smiling. But when she left, she glanced at me several times inadvertently, as if confirming something. I pretended not to see it, and just looked at the list of planners on the wall and curved the corners of my mouth. Performance. Hello. I am Nathan, a senior planner. I lowered my eyes and smiled amicably at the woman sitting opposite me. Sure enough, it's her, in the upper class circle. Except for deliberate hidden marriages, the relationship between husband and wife is almost transparent. The names of husbands and wives are often mentioned together. For such a training class, the relationship network is naturally extremely well informed. Most likely, the woman just now recognized who I am and knew that Nathan is currently working on River. So she sent her to talk to me. There is nothing better than chatting with the legal wife to explore the preferences of the rich. The careful calculation is to seek fortune in danger. But little do they know that they can also lose in danger. Nathan is like a good listener and psychological counselor. She said softly to me, "If you don't mind, you can talk to me about your troubles." I put on a disappointed look and fabricated 2 or 3 insignificant things as a prelude. Nathan indeed followed my logic and gave suggestions. What does your husband like? You can appropriately cater to it. I paused tactically, with a difficult expression. Likes it. But I can't do this kind of thing. She thought for a moment and unconsciously tapped the table with her fingertip. I suppressed the rising corner of my mouth, and made up nonsense seriously. Things like maid outfits and black stockings. Just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. Nathan smiled cooperatively. This is indeed a bit heavy in taste. After revealing some of River's fetishes, again in the identity of a frustrated wife, I left this place satisfied. The following developments are all within the plan. For Nathan contacted River again on the pretext of her paying money. I directly directed the person to his office. River's office is a suite. The inner room is for his daily rest. The camera in the office area, and the display screen in the room can see everything clearly. River was slightly unnatural and frequently looked up in the direction of the camera. It's hard for him to accompany me in acting in this play. I propped my chin and felt sorry for him from afar for 3 seconds. Then I withdrew my eyes and turned to look at the door and stared intently. Nathan appeared. She was wearing a sailor suit with blue and white stripes. In the building with people coming and going, she attracted frequent glances. I couldn't help laughing. General Manager River. I have raised so much first. Please give me some more time for the rest. She put a stack of money on River's desk and smiled brightly and cheerfully. When leaning forward, her beautiful hand was placed on her chest, covering the about-to-collapse collar button. Her top seemed to be a bit small in size, making her look particularly plump and attractive. River didn't even raise his head. For a moment, the two people fell into silence. River's hand touched the water cup and shook it lightly twice. There was not a drop of water in it. Seeing this, Nathan looked around, walked around the long table, and came to River's side. Her voice was gentle and beautiful. "Let me do it." Without waiting for River's consent, she took the water cup and walked to the bar by the door. Under the surveillance, the skirt hem rippled as she walked. Her long, white legs were particularly eye-catching. I narrowed my eyes, and looked at her like looking at a peacock about to spread its tail. Nathan came back with water. Almost instantly, the water seemed to have a positioning function, and accurately spilled on River's thigh. I'm sorry. She quickly took out a tissue to apologize and then wiped back and forth on the wet fabric of River. I rolled my eyes and secretly sighed that her means were old-fashioned. In president novels from 800 years ago, people wouldn't be hooked by this. River suddenly stood up, dodged away from her by a long distance. The eyes looking up at the surveillance camera flashed with a message of collapse. He took a deep breath. "Miss Nathan, if you have nothing else to do, please leave first." I have a lot of work and can't afford to waste time. Nathan's face was full of guilt. Hearing this, she just nodded. Sorry. Seeing her leave, River pushed open the door of the lounge. His ugly expression clearly showed that he had endured for a long time. Pointing Nathan to his company was a spur-of-the-moment decision. I also hurried over and had no time to explain so much to him. I just told him that Nathan said she'd come to pay back the money and wait and see. I quickly raised my hand. I can explain. He raised an eyebrow, waiting for me to continue. That day, I went to that institution. I restored the conversation at that time in detail. When I talked about it, the upturned corner of my mouth couldn't be suppressed. I said my husband has a first love who likes to wear a sailor suit. He looked me up and down with interest and said, I didn't know you liked to wear sailor suits. I was stunned for 2 seconds and came to a conclusion. Oh, he's confessing. I am his first love. I didn't pick up the conversation. Then I saw River take a deep breath and count one by one while cracking his knuckles. Your husband has been indifferent to you recently. He comes back from social engagements reeking of alcohol and falls asleep as soon as he lies down. Occasionally, we sleep in separate rooms. He ignores the 3 meals a day you prepare. His face dark and 1 degree for each item he counted. By the end, he gritted his teeth. There's always a pretext for an accusation. If this gets to Mom's ears, she'll skin me alive. I was rarely at a loss for words and quickly put on a smiling face to apologize. He had the remote control in his hand. In 1 second, the office was locked. In 1 second, the window glass was fogged up. What? 3 days have passed since we met in the office that day. There is not a single new message in the dialogue box between me and Nathan. Of course, I won't take the initiative to contact her. And Nathan is struggling to find a reason to contact me. 3 days is neither long nor short. It's just enough to wear out a person's patience. I've figured out her pattern and thoughts, and am eagerly editing my moments. When can women stop being unreasonable? Visible only to her. Creating an image of a tired man being dragged down by his wife's rudeness. The authenticity is also corroborated by me. After all, a training institution was not visited in vain. And the chat was not in vain either. Nathan seems to understand the art of playing hard to get. It wasn't until dusk fell that the message finally arrived late. Nathan, is Mr. River having any troubles? The reply was as I expected. Clearly, she has entered the 2nd stage. Get close to life. Help solve problems. And from a sharp contrast with the original wife, who is unreasonable and argumentative with the most understanding image. Often at this time, men are most vulnerable to being taken advantage of. And thus her image is erected high in their hearts. I didn't reply. Her message popped up again. Nathan, I happened to see your moments. No offense intended. I replied like River's usual calm manner. It's okay. A smart person should retreat to the polite boundary and keep silent at this moment. But apparently, I overestimated her. Or rather, she is a bit too impatient. Nathan's messages appeared on the screen one by one. I can even simulate her tone. There are no couples who don't quarrel. Life needs running in. But you are so busy with work. Your wife should be more understanding. If I had such an outstanding husband, I don't know how happy I would be. Women should learn to be content. The words are simple and straightforward, making my eyebrows twitch. What kind of doting wife's words are these? Has she really obtained the qualification certificate? Men who are hooked by these few words are really hungry. I didn't reply to her. But obviously, she has already started the next stage according to her own schedule. At 1:30 in the morning, the phone rang. Dragged out of sleep, I swiped the screen with a black face. In the chat interface with Nathan, she sent a selfie. Taken from above. Big eyes, a pointed chin, and pouty lips. What she is wearing is, bold. Black silk bunny outfit. I suddenly sat up straight from the bed. In an instant, there was no trace of sleepiness. I was as awake as if I had drunk 3 cups of black coffee. River was sleepy-eyed and propped up his upper body to look at me. His big hand pulled my wrist. What's wrong? Xing Xing? I covered his eyes with my hand. Nothing. Go back to sleep. Oh. He obediently lay down. 2 minutes of golden time passed. She didn't withdraw it. But the message came in a hurry. Nathan, I'm so sorry. I clicked wrong by accident. And I can't withdraw it. Oh my. It's so embarrassing. I enlarged her photo and looked at it carefully. Her figure was curvy. And her legs were thin and long. The lecture had a good effect. She took my words to heart. Sure enough. Black silk. And bunny. Hearing me muttering through gritted teeth. River's eyes lit up. He took the pillow and put it aside. Then reached out, and flipped the collar of my pure cotton pajamas. What bunny? Then I slapped his hand back. At dawn. I replied to Nathan's message. Deleted. Don't worry. I'm not at all worried that this coldness will drive Nathan away. For such a tough character to be finally captured by her should be extremely fulfilling. But it's time to change my attitude and let her taste a little sweetness. I began to chat with her gradually in River's image. Gradually shifting from the responsibility determination plan to life. During this period, she accidentally sent photos 2 or 3 times. I also gave positive feedback appropriately. It's like putting a flower on a trap. In less than half a month, Nathan was about to announce the end of the game. Mr. River, are you free tonight? I booked a room at Dongyi Hotel. Room number. I'll give you the money in person. Dongyi Hotel. River happens to have work there today. This is a well-prepared move. It seems that measures are about to be taken impatiently. I took a sip of water and replied. There happens to be a public welfare activity in Dongyi. See you at the end at 9 p.m. Come on. I'll prepare a big gift for you. River has a fixed room in Dongyi. I arrived early and counted every minute and second as they passed. At 8:30. The activity is drawing to a close. I checked my hairstyle in the mirror and was faintly excited about the scene that was about to happen. The door was pushed open by me, with the beeping sound of the password. Inside, the curtains were tightly drawn, but the light was purple. A feast with a hidden agenda. The crisp sound of high heels rang rhythmically beside me. Along with it, a soft and charming female voice drilled into my ears. General River. I slowly turned around, with a smile on my lips and met Nathan's eyes. Her outfit today is a hip-hugging fishnet. The chest is a hollowed-out butterfly. The thin fabric barely covers her white body. I glanced up and down at her. A trace of surprise flashed in her bright eyes. Subconsciously, she raised her hand to cover the spring scenery leaking from her chest. River is in the venue on the 9th floor. I walked in her direction and stopped when there was only 1 meter left. Didn't you say you were going to pay back the money? It's the same if you give it to me. Under the purple light. Nathan's face was a bit ugly. You. I looked down at her and took her bag placed aside. We've met. Don't you recognize me? I am River's wife. Nathan's lips trembled. Wouldn't lie. She pulled a bathrobe from the sofa and wrapped herself tightly. Only then did she slowly take the bag and lower her head to search inside. In the black and gold Chanel flap bag, there are all kinds of things that men and women can use late at night. With the surrounding deep purple light, it seems like a special soul-catching trap for hunting. Everything is ready. Except there is no money. Mathen's slender fingers covered the bag. Looking up, she smiled a little reluctantly. Look at my carelessness. I took the wrong bag when I went out. I raised my hand and slapped her, sealing her excuse back in her mouth. 5 fingerprints quickly rose on her cheek. I rotated my right wrist. I used a bit too much strength and it hurt a little. Nathan was stunned by my sudden slap. In an instant, a layer of mist accumulated in her eyes. Her voice trembled. Why did you hit me? I pulled her bag over, turned it upside down and dumped everything on her. The things inside fell to the ground with a crisp sound. Why do you think? She was still stubborn. sticking out her neck and looking righteous. I just came to pay back the money. Where's the money? Are these things valuable? I kicked the things spread out on the ground with my foot, and looked at her with interest. Or are you valuable? 7. Nathan's face turned pale, as if she had suffered an unbearable blow. In the next second, she rushed out of the door. I stuffed the scattered things on the ground into the bag and followed her footsteps. Most of the people in the banquet hall had left, but there were still some people staying to have business conversations. Seeing me appear at the door, River's mouth curled up in a smile and he walked towards me. But just after taking 2 steps, he was stopped by the woman who rushed out from the side. General River. She slapped me without saying a word. Look! Nathan pulled River's sleeve and cried like a pear blossom in rain, as if she had suffered a great grievance. Obviously, the people around were also caught off guard by this sudden incident. River frowned. Neatly, he brushed off her hand. Nathan's hands fell and brushed against the fabric of the bathrobe. She was a little incredulous, looking at him with teary eyes. River sneered. Miss, are we very familiar? Hearing this, Muffin's eyes changed from surprise to disbelief, and finally froze into fierceness. As if giving up completely, she shouted, River, you dare to do it, but not admit it. Are you still a man? The volume of conversations among the people around suddenly decreased, but they still maintained good manners and looked straight ahead. Before River could speak, I beckoned to the waiter. Please help me close the door and make sure the monitoring is running normally. Then I raised my voice. My voice penetrated the entire venue. I'm really sorry. This matter concerns the reputation of the Ming family of the River family. So I'll take up a little of everyone's time. They said it was okay in succession. It really doesn't matter. Although this kind of drama that seems like an affair or catching an adulterer is not new in wealthy families. After a meal, watching a show up close. Who doesn't like it? I folded my arms across my chest. My tone neither salty nor bland. Husband, what's the relationship between this lady and you? River's face was calm. Debt relationship. Then did private conversations cross the line? Making it so unseemly. River's mouth curled up in a gentle smile. Wife, you forgot. After this lady rear-ended my car, I left her with yours. Nathan's face changed suddenly, and she no longer had the confident look just now. She turned her head and stared at me fiercely. The sound squeezed out from between her teeth. It's all a misunderstanding. Oh, misunderstanding. I smiled. Miss Nathan's see-through outfits with black silk stockings several times in the middle of the night are also misunderstandings. The hints and purposes are so obvious. Slight gasps sounded around. All the women present looked at her twice more. A small number of men looked unnatural, without giving her a chance to defend herself. I continued. Since it's my misunderstanding, then I'll give Miss Nathan a gift to express my apology. The development rhythm of the matter surprised everyone. They were surprised by my sudden decision to let it go. Among the crowd, there was someone with a hot temper who rolled her eyes and said pushover. A door opened and a woman with a cold and glamorous temperament came slowly. Nathan's already flushed and pale face completely turned ashen the moment she saw the woman. She subconsciously took 2 steps back and was grabbed by me by the arm. Is Miss Nathan okay? Pearl, the eldest lady of Ishan City. It's a 5-hour drive from here. She is specially invited by me. She slowly walked up to Nathan. I neatly released my grip on Nathan and took 2 steps back to make way for the battlefield. Nathan's eyes were full of panic and his lips couldn't stop trembling. Pearl's gaze swept over Nathan and landed on the bag in my hand. So my bag is here. Her voice was clear and cold, exuding a sense of oppression. I subconsciously looked down at my hand. Unexpectedly, there was an unexpected surprise. Thinking that I don't keep count of my full closet of bags, you picked an inconspicuous one and gave it away. Pearl glared at Nathan. There was unconcealed sarcasm in her voice. It seems that you have followed Thomas for so long in vain. River's eyes were about to pop out. He didn't expect that, Nathan. Seeing that things had been exposed, After being silent for a month across the provinces, would pick him again and repeat the same trick. Even more unexpectedly, Thomas, a Phoenix man who married into Pearl's family, dared to play so recklessly in private. I patted his arm to comfort him. In the next second, I took 2 steps forward and picked up the bag. Well, in that case, let's return it to its original owner. What do you say, Miss Nathan? Nathan's hand was clenched tightly into a fist and she didn't say a word. However, the things inside belong to Miss Nathan. We also need to distinguish them clearly. After saying that, I flipped my wrist and turned the bag upside down again. The things that I had randomly stuffed in the bag fell down with a clatter once more. Adding fuel to the fire is something I am proficient at and enjoy doing. The venue finally became noisy. Pairs of curious eyes couldn't help but look over. And then they all took a sharp intake of breath in unison. In front of reserved Chinese people, these things being exposed in public are somewhat embarrassing. Nathan closed her eyes and her chest heaved violently. Pearl stared at the things on the ground for half a minute. The corners of her eyes were tinged with a little red due to surging emotions. In full view of everyone, she raised her arm and slapped Nathan hard across the face. Nathan covered her face, tears streaming down in pain. Without giving her a chance to catch her breath, Pearl reached out and grabbed her hair and pulled it down. Because of losing her balance, Nathan directly knelt on the ground, and the neckline of her bathrobe was torn open a large piece. River quickly turned around and didn't forget to reach out and pull me. You don't need to look either. Accusations rang out again. That torn cloth at my house is also yours, right? You guys are really bold. You actually mess around at my house. Pearl's voice was somewhat sharp, obviously extremely angry. She shouted towards the door. Thomas, come in here right now. I quickly turned around and saw that outside the door through which Pearl had entered, there was still a man standing. Hearing this, he immediately rushed in. The flesh on his stomach trembled. He stood beside Pearl with an ingratiating smile. Pearl glanced at Nathan, who was sitting slumped on the ground, and asked with a smile, "Do you feel sorry?" Thomas shook his head like a rattled drum. Wife, I was wrong. It's all this bitch who seduced me." I rolled my eyes. They are really a bunch of scoundrels. Nathan suddenly laughed. A little weakly and sadly. She smoothed back a lock of her hair on her forehead and said softly, "Thomas, isn't it a bit late to show loyalty now? I still remember those words you said to me. You married into Pearl's family with the intention of inheriting everything when they die without heirs. You poked holes in condoms and Pearl didn't even know." "Shut up." Before she could finish speaking, Thomas kicked her in the abdomen. Men are naturally strong. And it was a heavy blow in a moment of desperation. Nathan curled up on the ground, drenched in cold sweat. Pearl watched coldly. When she saw Thomas turn his head with a fawning expression, she slapped him across the face. Then she pulled out a divorce agreement from her bag and pressed it on him. "You don't need to go back to Pearl's family anymore." 9 Actually, finding Pearl was also an unexpected move. The client that Luna heard about River's experience and told me about is Pearl. It was also from chatting with her that I learned that the person who seduced her husband is also called Nathan. However, after things were exposed, Nathan took the money and ran away. When Thomas and Nathan made the headlines on the society page, Pearl and I were sitting together drafting, watching the surveillance video ferment on the internet. Pearl reported a certain planning company for operating under a false license to the Industry and Commerce Department in her real name. I used the heat to expose the mistress training plan on the platform. Unlike the previous joking and teasing, the comments section is now filled with contempt and abhor for mistresses. Thomas was in the wrong and, under the pressure from Pearl's family, gave up dragging it out and agreed to a divorce by agreement. Nathan gave the money she had previously received from Thomas to River's lawyer. As for whether the penniless Thomas will pester Nathan to return the money again is beyond my concern. After concentrating on one thing for so long, I can finally relax. I raised my glass to Pearl. "Thank you for coming all this way to show up. Helping you is helping me." Pearl clinked glasses with me. I also want to thank you for revealing Nathan's news to me, and allowing me to get rid of this pair of scumbags smoothly. The dark clouds in the sky have dispersed and a few stars are shining, looking out from the floor to ceiling windows. It is a brand new life. The end.